The funding crisis for the Oregon Department of Transportation will be a top priority when the legislature convenes next month. The agency needed a bailout last winter just to keep snowplows running. But at the same time, ODOT is pushing ahead on several big and expensive projects around Portland, some of which have their own funding problems. And one of them just got much worse. And that is our big story tonight. The Abernethy Bridge carries I-205 over the Willamette River between Oregon City and West Linn. ODOT is 2.5 years into construction on a project to widen it and make it strong enough to survive a major earthquake. But agency officials announced this month that the project is $72 million over budget, and the completion date has slipped from late 2025 to fall of 2026. This is not the project's first overrun. In fact, it's not even the first time this year. ODOT already asked for another $85 million back in May. The project's cost now stands at $815 million, almost $300 million more than when it went out to bid just 3 years ago. And if that sounds bad, this latest increase might not be the end of it.
That total cost does not include pricing of those risks Mr. Finn mentioned that we have on the risk register. There are additional costs that may be coming in. And so we can't say conclusively that $815 million is the final total cost for Abernethy. It is the cost as of today.
All right, let's back up a second and look at why the project is so short on cash. ODOT has pointed to some familiar causes: inflation, contractor disputes, unexpected engineering challenges. But there's another big factor here: tolls. They were supposed to help pay for this project. So when Governor Tina Kotek slammed the brakes on regional tolling, it had all kinds of impacts down the road, so to speak. And unlike many other ODOT mega projects that hope to use toll funds, the Abernethy Bridge construction was already underway, putting ODOT in a tough spot, as they explained back in June.
Right now, we have a project that is under active construction with the 205 Abernethy Bridge project that is spending millions of dollars a month. And for almost exactly to the day 3 months, we have not had a funding source for that. As the guy who's in charge of keeping the agency in the black, that makes me extremely nervous.
All right, at first they plugged hole by moving over funding from another mega project, the Rose Quarter expansion in Portland. But then the Rose Quarter needed that money back to apply for a federal grant, which was ultimately denied. But this time the money stayed with the Rose Quarter, leaving Abernethy back at square one. So ODOT's new approach is to take funding from a bunch of smaller projects. Here's how that's going to work. The Statewide Transportation Improvement Program, or STIP, is Oregon's main fund for transportation capital projects. Think of it as the fund for medium-sized transportation things like repainting a large bridge or replacing a small one. Abernethy is technically eligible for STIP dollars, but the fund is not typically used for mega projects. ODOT says if they took all the money they needed for Abernethy from the current STIP budget, there would almost be nothing left. And that would mean that nearly every other bridge repair project in the books for the next 3 years statewide would have to be canceled or delayed. And that was before Abernethy ran another $72 million over budget. So this month, instead of doing that, the Oregon Transportation Commission decided to issue bonds to cover Abernethy's cost right now and then pay them back from the STIP fund more gradually over the next 25 years. But while the pain will be more spread out, we're still going to feel it, because the more bonds you take out now, the more funding you have to devote to debt payments in future STIP cycles, and the less you have available for other projects.
Normally, we might be able to fund 2/3 of them. We'll simply cut the list a little bit shorter. So it'll be basically the debt service would be a line in the program budget, and there will be less money available for delivering other projects.
Now, at a meeting earlier this month, ODOT officials said the current 3-year STIP budget devotes about $45 million to debt payments. In the next cycle, that's going to jump to $105 million, more than a third of the STIP's total bridge funding. The bonds have to be authorized by the legislature, so state lawmakers will get their own chance to weigh in on this plan. But if they don't like it, they would have to find some other source of funding, which is already a massive ask for ODOT as an entire agency let alone for one project. Just one more transportation budget puzzle for lawmakers to dig into next month.